have time to get to more later, but Pastor Mike organized over 1,000 black clergy, faith leaders, people in the spiritual movement, to put a full-page ad in the New York Times, what he's talking about in terms of foreign military behavior, calling for a ceasefire. And then that also led to a song, look up on your thing, Ceasefire Song by Yana Gregory. And a lot of these preachers came together and we did a music video calling for a ceasefire. That's right. How many of y'all seen the We Are the World documentary on Netflix? Well, everything that happened in that documentary also happened to me producing that song. Amen. It was a lot, but we got it done. We have stories to tell. But that's also very important. And I just want to say on that, we'll get more into that later as well. I'll hold that. Well, let me say this. Richard Haas, the head of the Council of Foreign Relations, said on Morning Joe yesterday, the day before yesterday, that Netanyahu is campaigning and running against Biden. Now, I said that October 7th, that this was more here than meets the eye. But he said it, and so now you have Morning Joe, which is a mainstream. I'm not saying this, y'all, and I'm not speaking of any of these organizations here. I'm just saying you objective fact, a mainstream medium, and they are now themselves calling for a ceasefire. And remember what happened with LBJ. The night Walter Cronkite went on the evening news and said the Vietnam War needs to come to an end. What did LBJ say? When we lost Walter Cronkite, we lost the country. Now, Morning Joe, of course, ain't Walter Cronkite, but still, that's what people look at. So you look at all these things, and what Pastor Mike just did, people don't have even made the connection, as Dr. King did. See, we ain't even gone there yet. Folks have really been, we have not said there's a lack of housing. And then we live in wages. Because you are helping to prosecute and fund this situation. So that's what my thing is, if you don't know what to do, this is how I operate. Just do what Dr. King did. I don't know what I should do here. What did Dr. King do? Just do that. You can't go wrong. Right. The 67, 68, who came here after coming for the march from Selma, Montgomery. Dr. King came back, and I'm going to transition to our brother. This is a segue. Watch this. He was at Tabernacle Mass Meeting, first Mass Meeting, right? Dr. King came back to Tabernacle February 12th, 1968. Reverend Patterson talk about the Poor People's Campaign. He came to Selma to talk about that. So with that, let's talk to us about tomorrow with the Poor People's Campaign. And I know I was quick with the numbers. Please share the numbers, because when y'all hear these numbers, they're compelling. Reverend Patterson, give him another round of applause.
Thank you. Just happy to be here to represent the Poor People's Campaign, and thank Bishop Barber.
And let me say, y'all, Bishop Barber was trying to join us via Zoom and get on the screen. We may still yet work that out. So that's if I seem a little distracted.
Thank you for the opportunity. And here we are here today, and on tomorrow we will be in Montgomery gathering and assembling for this march that we've been planning for the last 40 weeks. And we have mobilized many people, low-wage workers, people of all nationalities, to come to their prospective state houses and to represent this moral march to the State House. And we come today on behalf of poor people. In 1968, like you said, Dr. King's last campaign was the Poor People's Campaign, and of course, Bishop Barber picked it up in 2018, and here we are today, full force across the country. People are being recognized as low-wage workers, even in all aspects. We're here, first of all, to abolish poverty as the fourth leading cause of death in the U.S. wouldn't be the last to be seen, last to be worked on, and don't have the time or the transportation to go to the health facility. And a living wage, we are fighting for just $15 an hour. And if you work 40 hours a week, that's only $600 a week. And if you have a mortgage or a house or apartment, usually around $1,400 a month. That's the average in Alabama, the larger cities in Alabama, and that's a one bedroom. And here we are in Selma. The average rent is $1,000, and many are still working for the minimum wage that hadn't been changed for many years. And we are constantly trying to get the full voting rights, like the brothers have been talking about. I had opportunity to work to serve as a pastor in Bibb County area near Shelby County during the time where they were trying to take our rights away, and here we are. God has put us in position to continue to fight for our rights, and we're fighting for no more voter suppression. And if you lived in Alabama and any other state in the South, you know that tricks have been put in place, laws have been changed, policies have been put in place to deter and to keep us from exercising our full rights as Americans and humans in this country that we call the United States of America. And the Poor People's Campaign is focused on workers' rights and labor rights. We have a business here in Alabama. It's an international business called International Paper. One of the highest paying facilities in the whole county. I think the average is $60,000. But with that being said, labor rights and worker rights are not in place. Many people are not aware of the fact that people go out there, but they leave because they stand a chance of getting sick. And many other car industries all across this state and in the South are not unionized and don't have rights. They miss work because of a health issue. That's their job is at hand and may be taken away from them. And here we are, healthcare for all. Healthcare is a very important thing that many of our elders and young people in particular, if they turn 26 years old and don't have health care, it's an issue. There's another financial burden that may be put on them. I have a daughter that's 28 years old, and she switched jobs, and she had to pay a double the price what she was paying for just 1 month to extend from being a teacher to a government worker. And doing that could be costly once you're trying to transition to another city. And healthcare in our area, people are usually relied on Medicaid, which is not a big problem in the South and in Alabama in particular. And other health insurance like United Healthcare, Devote, and others that elderly may be on right now, they don't know the full benefits, and they can only see certain physicians. And here we are, adequate housing and adequate and affordable housing, and that's the main issue in America right now. It's a housing crisis, and I'm not going to be too long. In Selma in particular, you wonder why Selma looks so bad. It's because of the people that own the homes that refuse to fix them up, because they know back in the day, the renters always fixed up their own home. The homes that blacks stayed in when they were staying in slave houses, they fixed them up. The owners are still oppressors here that don't live in Selma. I am boots on the ground. That's why Selma looks so bad. And most of the property is not owned by African Americans in this city. And most of the renters are African Americans. And to that end, we in the midst of gun violence, and in the area that I serve, Pastor Mike, within the 3 football fields, we account for most of the murders here in Selma, and from the place of worship that I serve. And we constantly have to have protection for I have to have off-duty officer for service, just to make the people feel comfortable in order to come worship. And you know, it has gotten to the point where, you know, guns have been distributed to the teenagers, and I don't know where they come from, and you don't know where they come from, but somebody know where they come from. And there's no law in place where you have to have a license, and that's an issue that we have been fighting for a long time. But the Poor People Campaign focus is really about war on poverty right now, and the low wages. And there's 135 million poor and low-wage people in the nation, rising back towards 140 in 2019 because of ending COVID relief. And in our state, you know, the COVID money that was left over, it was sent out, $150 to each person, and $150 really can't get you a bag of groceries in Walmart. And not saying that we're not appreciating it. It was also built, used to plan to build prisons. And here we are looking at environmental crisis. And even in Selma, Alabama, we have to boil our water. In Uniontown, the problem that they're facing and have been facing for years, and the storm happened last year and tore up our jail, and now the prisoners are sent to a prison down in Perry County, in an area that the water sanitation is an issue. And not only that, you know, we have problems with environmental. We have a problem with clean water as well, and that's the issue in most older cities. And funding public education is a major issue that we're facing now. As I prepare to end, we're getting ready to vote whether we are going to have school choice. And as a former school teacher, retired teacher here in Alabama, and a volunteer at the private school, I see the need for it in the private school, but it's not enough students in the private sector for to make the choice for them all the money to go to the private sector. And we know once they start choosing to which school to go to, they're going to choose the schools that they want to choose. Even the bourgeois will take their children and put them in white private schools. And the truth be told, but here we are fighting war on poverty, and poverty is an issue. 85 million poor and low wealth eligible voters, not only black voters, but white voters. We have white poor people that don't know that the president, former president, is not for them. They're still stuck back in the 1800s and think that, you know, the X and the flag represents victory. But, you know, the truth be told, the victors always tell the story, and the story has been told that, you know, the story has been told that they're not the winners. Amen. And that's what I wanted to say. And I thank Bishop Barber for the opportunity to share with you that poverty is a problem. And Dr. King expressed that as he went to his grave. And we live the reality of that each and every day as we hold conferences, as we plan and teach people how to budget, as we prepare forms for elderly and get them the right health care they need, as we go through the community and feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and give water to the thirsty. In our community, there is drugs, alcohol, and people are in need, and children and their parents. And there's so much domestic violence until it filters over and into their mindset. And like Brother said, it's a lot of trauma that they have to get over. And I know I may be helter-skelter all over the place, but the reality is being poor is not a choice. Amen. Because this has been done to us and for years, and we just can't sit and accept it anymore. That's what I want to say.
Oh, this is information to get mobilized.
Amen.
Right? Folk looking down, oh Lord, but this is real. Now, I want to just do something here for the record because we're in Alabama, and you can look up your own state at poorpeoplescampaign.org, okay? Got fact sheets on every state. 1.9 million poor and low-income eligible voters who make up 47% of the electorate. Almost half the electorate in this state. Imagine if all those people went out and voted and were mobilized to vote. Between 2020 and 2023, Demetrius, Alabama state lawmakers introduced 20 voter restrictive bills. 3 of them passed, all right? 168,700 people are expected to lose Medicaid in Alabama by this month, by March 2024. Alabama's average life expectancy dropped by 2 years as a result of the pandemic. 1.8 million workers, or 80% of the whole Alabama workforce, does not have paid leave. Now, wait a minute, y'all, I'm just talking about Alabama. Now, you know, maybe you want to go look up your state because you might be surprised. This is happening. This is there. Bend climate crisis. Poor and low-income people in Alabama are bearing the brunt of deaths and injuries due to climate change. Alabama has had significant changes in precipitation patterns with increased risk of flooding, drought, and water scarcity. Poor and low-income Alabama households, 6 times, Reverend Patterson, as much of their income on energy costs as the average household. So wait a minute, how are poor and low-wage people, why are their bills higher? I'm just talking about Alabama now. Look up your state. If you dare, to your point, Pastor Mike, in 2023, the mass incarceration, deportations, and detention. In Alabama, state taxpayer dollars for deportations and border control could instead, Bruce, subsidize 33,688 public housing. So what, are we seeing an intersection here? People are poor and low wage, losing their voting rights, wage camming, they don't have reparations. And let me just say something about that real quick. What the white middle class, white people think white middle class just popped up out of thin air. They got white reparations, so to speak. Homestead Act, federal housing, when we talk about CAM, they got that help. They got set up. They didn't just roll, hey, I got a house, disappeared. GI Bill, Social Security, we weren't a part of that. We see these cities, they build buildings, take so long to build them, they spend too much money. By the time the building's built, it's obsolete. The white middle class help is now obsolete because those people have moved into poverty. So we now are 2 generations, but we're not just behind. We don't have reparations from the first thing we didn't get. White middle class needs to be brought out of poverty, and we still haven't gotten what they got in the first place. So that's double. You understand? We're just going to do the math. So again, what do we have in common? Poverty, loss of voting rights. Poverty, loss of wages, reparations. Poverty, gun violence. Poverty, no housing. So you got all these intersections, and God bless Dr. King, because he was always good at putting all that reparations. And just pick one, start with either one of those categories. And then the same thing with the climate. The cancer alleys, the cities, the areas where we're more susceptible to climate change and the hazards of, Dr. Chavis coined the term environmental racism. And then in education, the loss, we can't teach our history in our schools no more. But the schools are serving the poor, and the only way they can get something to eat is when they go to school. So you're getting something to eat in their body, but not getting nothing to eat in the mind, because Moms for Liberty, Kevin and Kadada is in there. We're gonna get something to eat, but you ain't gonna get nothing up here. So anyway, I just want people to watch this and say, you're not all over the place. They all over the place. Our enemies all over the place, coming at us from every angle. Amen? So I want people watching that just to get this intersection. And when Dr. King said we're going to do something about poor people, sometimes people got a thing about that. Oh, I'm not really interested in poverty. And Dr. King, some of his own people who work for him, Dr. King, don't deal with poverty. Don't deal with the war. And then those were the 2 things. He tied them both: poverty, war, poverty. And then he had the courage to do it, and we see what happened. So I'm about that life. Whatever he did, that's what I don't even need. What you need to do? I don't think about it. That's what he did. That's what we need to do. Otherwise, why we run around and say, we just said a holiday. What's the purpose of a holiday? We heard from Bruce. Bruce, I don't know if you wanted to quickly address any of this as relates to housing or the lack of available housing. And then we're going to go to Dr. Chavis and everybody else. Yeah, if you want to address that quick.
Sure, I'll be real quick.